Ang the room service bill I didn't order. The charge was small enough to look like a mistake and specific enough to be a message. Room service 2314. Hotel Mavros. 1 grilled branzino, 1 half bottle of Chablis, 2 glasses. The folio had my name, my company, my membership number, yesterday's date, and a room I hadn't been in since last spring. The email subject line did the clever thing hotels do when they're about to gaslight you softly. We hope you enjoyed your stay. I was sitting at our kitchen island with a mug I'd already microwaved twice. Erin came out of the shower in my shirt, her hair up, her mouth already in project mode. She runs an annual summit called Ethics and Urban Futures, which makes donors say brave and procurement officers say exhausting. This year it was at the Mavros because its ballroom can seat 500 people who pretend to whisper, and the river looks good behind big ideas. What did we enjoy? She asked, seeing my face, seeing the email, doing the math in one glance the way she always does. Room 914 enjoyed dinner on my behalf, I said, passing her my phone. She read like she edits, fast first, slow second, then cruel to what deserves it. Someone wants you to explain something you didn't do, she said. I can explain a lot of things I didn't do, I said. I didn't order branzino, I don't drink Chablis, and I didn't bring a second glass to a room I wasn't in. You can explain things, or we can decide who's trying to make us explain them, she said, handing the phone back, tapping the towel at her throat like a referee. Say it. Honeysuckle, I said, adding the word correctly. That's why it works, she said, and kissed me once precise like a seal on a plan. I work in crisis for people who have paid too much for their reputations to be clumsy, companies, campaigns, institutions that learned too late what drift looks like. I'm the locksmith version of a therapist. I find doors that shouldn't exist, and I ask questions at them until the hinges show me their favorite lies. The Mavros knows me by sight. It also knows my weaknesses: good lighting, bad timing, love of puzzles with other people's fingerprints on them. We walked the 8 blocks because Erin thinks better when the city narrates itself. The Mavros lobby behaved like wealth with an old memory. The desk clerk saw us, recognized Erin from her last week's ballroom rehearsals, did that smile that commits discretion. I need the folio for 914, I said. Last night's room service, charged to my profile. I can't share guest details, he said, and Erin looked at him the way she looks at graphics that emoticon their way through budgets. Or, she said, you can share which staff name is on the ticket so we can bring chocolates to the right person and not get you in trouble for mishandling something you're not supposed to be handling. He blinked, grateful to be handed a different story. Housekeeping sign for delivery, he said after a few keystrokes. It's tagged delivered at door, guest not present. Which housekeeper? I asked. He studied the screen like it might volunteer to be bolder. The code is K9, he said. That team is Knights. We can call the supervisor. Don't, Erin said. Who's in 914 today? No one, he said. Blocked maintenance. The elevator was in a forgiving mood. The 9th floor carpet sounded like confidentiality. Room 914 sat at the bend, always a camera angle if someone needs it later. A small triangle of paper was wedged under the door. I used a knuckle. Nobody answered. Erin crouched and slid the triangle out with a practiced thief's flick. On it in housekeeping stubby pencil, housekeeping K9 1150. There was a phone number and under it a word, Sparrow. Erin's eyes flashed. Of course, she said, not your reporter, mine. She had a Sparrow long before I did. A woman who runs on deadlines and nicotine gum, who believes City Hall should be a glass house and wears steel-toed shoes in case it is. Aaron dialed. "You left your name on my boyfriend's door," she said when the line clicked. She listened, then hung up, then exhaled the way she does when she's impressed and tired at once. "That wasn't housekeeping," she said. "That was housekeeping. She's embedded in K9 for a piece on wage theft and off-the-books key masters. Her lead, a fixer inside the hotel's overnight crew who fabricates room service alibis for men who can't afford another selfie in the wrong light." "And they used me for practice," I said. "They used you because your profile buys the charge without you being present," she said. "The card at check-in, the stored folio, and because the summit gave them 150 names to choose from. Half the city tried to be someone else last night." We found K9 in the service corridor behind a door that had learned to be knocked gently. Fluorescents hummed. Carts lined up like docile mules. A woman in a navy smock stamped with a K9 patch looked up from a manifest. Her face had the practiced neutrality of people who have seen too much of other people's choices. "Housekeeping," Aaron said. K9 nodded once. "I'm whoever you need me to be," she said, "but right now I'm Marta." "I'm whoever you don't want us to be," Aaron said. "But right now I'm the person whose conference is being used to launder Branzino." Marta's mouth twitched at Branzino like it had done her wrong personally. She glanced left and right and flicked her head toward a back stair. In the stairwell, the air smelled like soap pretending to be lemon. Marta held up her hand for our phones. We handed them over without being asked twice. She slid them into a metal ice bucket on the landing, then sighed when she saw our faces. "Relax," she said. "It's a Faraday cage because your new friends like to talk near doors with ears. I'm not your enemy." She pulled a key fob from her pocket, a black teardrop with a hotel logo and a piece of tape labeled "After Hours" in ballpoint. "This opens any room that's been checked out and set to maintenance." It prints one extra folio. The fixer, Calder, sells alibis to donors who need to be elsewhere at 2314. "Calder who?" I asked. "Not a last name he was born with," she said. "He's an event whisperer. If a councilman needs a woman to be seen in a mirror that won't hold up in court, he arranges a room service ticket that makes two glasses look like an argument in your kitchen later. If a developer needs to invent a bedtime story about himself having been in his suite instead of behind a stage door, he sells fake salmon to men who haven't eaten anything but rehearsed sentences for 30 years. "In my profile," I asked. "Cute, visible, useful," she said. "Not married, not boring. An accountant would call you a flow-through. I call you sorry." Aaron cut in before my heart could correct its posture. "He chose the wrong couple," she said. Marta shrugged. "He never chooses the right one," she said. "The trick is not to keep the bill." She handed me a printout from her smock pocket. My folio, room 914, room service ticket attached. And under the ticket, faint in the dot matrix afterbirth, a disabled line item with a note. "Comp vid suite 15 min." "What's that?" I asked. "The video suite," Marta said. 15 minutes comp to the same ghost folio. He gives certain men a room with a camera where they can film a confession for a future that might prefer a tearful clip over a deposition. They never use it. They just like that it exists. "We need to see the suite," Aaron said. "You need to promise you won't fix this in a way that gets everyone on K9 fired," Marta said. "Strike anyone you want, not us." "We'll hit the head and not the hands," Aaron said. Marta held our eyes until she decided we meant it. Then she handed me the teardrop fob and tapped the landing door. 15 is on the bend," she said, "like all bad ideas." The 15th floor was carpeted in Everything is Fine. Suite 1517 had the same quiet that happens to rooms after someone says the wrong thing in them. The fob turned the light green. Inside, a couch that didn't sigh, a low table with a half-moon water ring, a mirror propped against the wall at a flattering tilt, and a tripod folded like a spider against the corner. No camera, no lens, just a ghost. Erin went to the mirror first. She does that. She and mirrors have an old argument about who owns what. "Look," she said, pointing to a strip of barely lighter paint on the back of the frame. The adhesive marks labeled cables that should exist and didn't. They move the rig when they feel watched. "And right now," I said. "They're watching the wrong people," she said, turning to me, mouth tightening into something wicked and useful. "Get your phone." We went back to the landing, pulled the phones from the bucket, and Erin texted Sparrow. "Need a camera. Need 20 minutes. Need it to feel like a surprise." Sparrow arrived with a case that made her look like a musician in a band cooler than ours. She set up a camera where Calder would set his. She taped a barely there lav to Erin's collarbone and one to mine, mouths grazing fingers because it felt like a scene, and we love a room that insists it's not. She hid a mic in the couch and another in the vase that had been too clean to be real. "Say your parts," Sparrow said. "Hit your marks, don't be polite." Erin walked to the mirror like it owed her a public apology. "Calder," she said into the room, as if he could feel his name turn into a spell. "You are going to try to sell us a solution to a problem you created." I sat on the couch and tilted my body like a man about to be handed a better explanation than the one he brought. "And then you will attempt to sell it to 50 other men at tomorrow's donor breakfast." Sparrow checked her levels. "Again," she said, "but sexier." Erin's eyebrow went up into a place I love. "Later," she told Sparrow. "We'll do the sex now." She crossed to me and swung her leg over my lap, settling like she belonged there, which she does. The lav caught the whisper as her mouth passed my ear. "You could make me forget the plan for 10 minutes," she said. "You only need 9, I said. She smiled. "Behave." We kissed like adults who knew the room was a witness and were ready to make it testify on our behalf. It wasn't obscene. It was proof. Proof that our mouths do better work than the story Calder wanted to sell. Proof that intimacy is a language only useful to its speakers, and that a camera without consent is just a burglar that smiles. A knock sweet as a bell. Erin slid off me casual and called, "Yes." The door opened on a man in a suit that looked designed by plausible deniability. Calder was taller up close than the legend made him. He had the haircut of men who never emphasize, and a smile that had practiced not moving in the wrong places. "House sent me," he said, closing the door behind him without asking. He looked at the couch, at the mirror, at our hands, at our faces. "You got my message." "We got our bill," Erin said. He made the kind of shrug people do when they want you to think you're the smartest person in the room, so they can point the blame at you later. "You are going to need plausible protection," he said. "Certain donors in certain rooms with certain employees who deserve discretion." "In the price?" I asked. "Gratitude," he said, "and humility later. Perhaps a cancellation of a panel about wage exploitation that might embarrass a certain partner with a logo on the step and repeat." Erin smiled in a way that made my bones proud. "I don't do humility on command," she said, "and I don't cancel panels, but I will offer you a deal." He tilted. "I'm listening." "You stop using my summit as a laundromat for alibis," she said. "You stop selling video confessions like trinkets. You stop comping ghost folios onto profiles that don't belong to your clients' lies. In return, I don't give Sparrow this footage." Calder looked at the tripod like it had become a second spine in the room. "What footage?" he asked. Aaron nodded at the mirror, at the walls, at the vase. "The one in which you admit you did a bad thing for good money," she said. "Say it now, on your own terms, or hear it in your own voice tomorrow morning when I play it to a room with 300 people who think the word ethics means the lights will be flattering." He didn't blanch. Men like him don't. But he did the microscopic thing they do when they start to count exits. He looked at me. He looked at Aaron. He looked at the tripod and saw his reflection instead of a tool. He straightened his tie, a gesture that always means the wrong thing when it happens this late. "You won't burn me," he said. "You need this hotel, and they need me more than they care about you." Aaron glanced at me. I nodded once. She turned back and said, almost kindly, "Honeysuckle." Calder blinked. "What?" "Exactly," she said. "Leave." He left with his smile still on a leash. We waited 3 beats for the elevator's sigh. Sparrow stepped out of the bathroom where she'd been sitting on the vanity counting his verbs. "Got him," she said. "Not a full confession, but a debut." "Not enough," Aaron said. "We need his contracts, the comp list, the fob list, Marta's safe." Sparrow nodded. "Marta's my source," she said, and Aaron's face did the exact opposite of flinch. We were already moving on to the part where the city learns what it's like when the people who clean its rooms get to point at the mess. We slept too little and kissed too often and went home early because fighting well makes us greedy. In the hallway, she pushed me against our door and said, "We have 9 minutes." "We have 8, I said, and kept time with my hands until she decided time could be bent. It wasn't obscene. It was gratitude. For her mouth, for my hinge, for the way we keep dragging rooms into our language until they surrender and start telling better stories. In the morning, the summit began with a panel I didn't want to watch because it had 3 men who love mics and the word framework. Aaron opened with the sentence that makes me love her in public. "Ethics is not a brand, it's a receipt." Marta sat 3rd row center with a badge that read speaker even though she wasn't yet. Sparrow crouched by a camera like a lit fuse. When Calder walked in, he had already been called by someone whose job it is to nudge men like him toward less visible cliffs. He looked like a person who had just learned the word subpoena in a language he pretended not to speak. At the break, the hotel's GM took him aside and didn't bring him back. By noon, Sparrow had a post up that didn't name the Mavros but named the practice and named the comp lines and named the harm. By 2, the GM announced a pause and review with a sincerity borrowed from other people's apologies. By 4, Marta's team got a raise in the form of back pay that tasted like victory and still wasn't enough. By 6, a donor texted me, "Are we okay?" And I wrote back, "Only if we start meaning that question the way other people do." That night, Aaron and I ate pasta that didn't boil over. She had meetings, I had calls, and then we didn't, and we crawled onto the couch where the city can see us if it wants to, and we let it try. She put her ear to my chest and listened for the hinge. "You were tempted to perform," she said. "I always am," I said. "You were tempted by me," she said, a smile in it now. "I always am," I said. "Say it," she said, though we didn't need it anymore. "Honeysuckle," I said, softer than a threat, louder than a prayer. We kept the fob in our drawer next to the corkscrew and the good batteries, a reminder that doors behave until someone pays them not to. The Mavros sent me a revised folio that read, "Adjustment, Goodwill." I framed it and set it on the shelf where bad invoices go to die beside our best illusions. Calder will try again in another hotel with a friendlier lobby and worse carpet. We will be there, or Marta will, or Sparrow will, or the woman who saw herself in a mirror that told the truth one night will. We are not saints. We are exact. We are in motion. We keep a stupid password because we love what it protects. We toll the hinge in my chest like a bell when the room expects an alibi and gets a receipt instead. We kiss like witnesses. We work like thieves who returned what didn't belong to us and kept the thing that did.